Jack says this: I don't understand faith. Unless you can rule out natural explanations for something like existence itself, how can someone reach the supernatural conclusion? This is a great question. Um, so theists who use arguments for God's existence, I think that one of the most convincing is the cosmological argument. And there are several arguments for God's existence. And the cosmological argument uses something like this, a modified version. There's several versions of the cosmological argument. One of them is called the Kalam modified version. It's the one that William Lane Craig, for example. William Lane Craig is very hot on. He's like the expert on it. And he formulates it as this, that everything that begins to exist must have a cause for its existence. Like things don't just pop into existence, right? You might think, well, the Big Bang does. Well, even scientists don't believe that. And people get confused about this too, because they say, well, scientists will acknowledge that there was nothing before the Big Bang. The problem is when scientists say there was nothing before the Big Bang, the term that they're using for nothing should be used in scare quotes because it's not actually nothing. It's something like primordial ooze or primordial soup or energy or something like that. That's not nothing. That's existent being right there. Philosophically speaking, if it really truly is nothing, that means there's no being whatsoever. Nothing exists, absolutely nothing. And if that were the case, nothing absolutely exists whatsoever, then something like the Big Bang, which has a beginning of its existence, never should have happened. And so to your point about natural explanations, I don't think we can have a natural explanation for that. Here's why, because, well, one natural explanation, as I just mentioned, could be like this primordial soup, this energy or whatever. Problem with that is you just kick it back one further. Well, how did that get there? Is that eternal or what? Right. And so, yeah, so I think that the whatever, nothing, quote, quote, scare quote, nothing that physicists believe in, I don't think that even that would have a, and you have these other models, like that's the Big Bang theory that's very popular. You have these other models called like like an oscillating model where there's kind of this, collapse, rebang, and then collapse and rebang kind of oscillate. You also have like a big crunch model where we're going to reverse and just stay in that point. But those also, I don't think are very, viable explanations because again, you think about it in terms, like I mentioned before, like a line of dominoes, right? And we only briefly, I would love to get in future live cast or future videos into the 5 ways and other arguments for God's existence. But the one that I shared earlier, for example, this, two of them that I looked at right here, this argument for motion, some things move, therefore there had to be something that first moved them. Some things cause other things. Causation is happening, cause and effects happening. Therefore, there must be some first cause that started those things up. That's just using reason and logic to get to those conclusions, not using revelation, not anything mystical or religious about it. And that, for example, I gave the example of like a line of dominoes. If you see dominoes that are falling now, there had to be some first domino that fell. Otherwise, if there was never a beginning domino to fall, then it would not be falling right now, right? Just think about that. Line of dominoes, you see falling happening right now. You see motion or you see causation happening, cause and effect. If you go all the way back in time, it can't extend because if you say it extends into infinity, infinity is really long and it would never have begun falling. And if it never begins falling, it can never be falling now. The fact that it is falling now underscores the conclusion that it had to have started falling. Therefore, there had to be some first cause. That's basic. That's basic argumentation, the cosmological argument, in a couple forms there. I mentioned 3 just now: the argument for motion, the argument for causation, both two of the 5 ways of Aquinas, and I mentioned Kalam argument.